Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Tuesday, April the 4th. After a day off of no NBA on Monday, we're back for Tuesday's slate, and we got a massive slate, 13 games. I'm going to try and go through this slate somewhat quickly, guys. Don't want this video to be too long, but we still are going to go game by game, talk through each one of these 13 games, kind of give you my early thoughts on this slate, what I do like, taking a first look on Monday night. But as always, guys, before we get started with the breakdown, if you enjoy these DFS videos, if they do help you out, make sure you hit that like button down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Also, go check out PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. For all of you that are new here, if you've never checked out PrizePicks before, they're a very simple DFS site. They're very easy to use. It's more focused on player props, so you're just taking more or less on a player's projection. You can see some of the props that they already have posted for Tuesday's games. There's a good amount on the board right now. There will be even more props available as we get closer to the start of the games on Tuesday. You can take a look at all the points props they have, rebounds, assists, all the different categories they offer. And again, if there's any projections that you think are either too high or too low, you just take more or less. It's as simple as that. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 6 picks. You can win up to 25x your money on PrizePicks. If you guys have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, use that promo code NOAH when you sign up, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk through this Tuesday slate, guys. Again, 13 games, so I'm going to try and go somewhat quickly. We'll start off with the first game of the night, though, Toronto and Charlotte. We just saw these two teams play a couple days ago. Toronto had a great game as a team. They put up a ton of points. Pascal Siakam went off, put up 60 DraftKings points, played 38 minutes. Toronto scored 128 points in that game. The matchup here is great against Charlotte. Charlotte's defense, not one we should fear. Charlotte also been playing pretty fast this season. So I think it's a really good spot for Siakam. It's a really good spot for Red VanVleet. VanVleet had 20 assists when these teams played, which is kind of crazy. He had over 60 DraftKings points. The only issue, or the only concern, I guess, is that, can Charlotte keep this game close? Last game, they kept it close enough to where VanVleet, Siakam played their full minutes. And we know Nick Nurse is a coach that's going to run his starters big minutes. So I think unless Charlotte just comes out here and completely shits the bed, as long as it's like a 15, 20-point game, I think you're going to see the Toronto starters play for a majority of the fourth quarter. I think they subbed out with a few minutes left last game. So if Charlotte can at least keep it somewhat competitive, I think Siakam and VanVleet offer a ton of upside here. Scotty Barnes been much more inconsistent, but he's a guy that we have seen flash a big ceiling. He had 56 against Miami, 61 against Philadelphia. He's going to play big minutes as well. I feel a lot better about Siakam and VanVleet, but I think Scotty Barnes is okay. Obviously, the matchup's great. And then OG Anunoby's questionable, so keep an eye on this. We know this Toronto team, they run a tight rotation, so if OG's out, probably just means more minutes for a lot of the main guys. Gary Trent's also questionable. If he were to play and OG were to get ruled out, I think Gary Trent would be someone we could consider for value. So that's kind of a wait and see there. If OG plays, I don't have a ton of interest in him. But I do want to talk about Jakob Poeltl. Really, really good spot here for Jakob Poeltl. We've seen centers do really well against Charlotte this season. These teams just played. Poeltl in 30 minutes had 41 DraftKings points. Really like this matchup for Poeltl. Made him the thumbnail for today. I think it's a great spot for him. The $6,500 price tag, I think that's a reasonable enough price, and I think at that price tag, his ownership's not going to be too high. And Poeltl's a guy that can easily outperform the salary when he's getting 30-plus minutes. He's played 30-plus minutes in back-to-back games. Again, the matchup's great, so really like Jakob Poeltl today. He's probably my favorite play on Toronto, but I think Siakam and VanVleet both offer plenty of upside here. Don't see too much else, though, that I'm super interested in on Toronto. Now, on the other side with Charlotte, Charlotte has pretty much just, they're punting the season. They're pretty much just in tank mode right now. They're sitting a lot of guys. No P.J. Washington, no Terry Rozier, no Kelly Oubre, no Gordon Hayward. So we're going to see, a lot of minutes for guys like Svi Mykhailiuk. If Dennis Smith Jr. plays, he should play a good amount of minutes. Dennis Smith Jr., if he does play at only 6,600, I think is an okay option. But guys like Svi Mykhailiuk, I mean, the price tag on Mykhailiuk is tough to get to at 6,200, but he's going to play a good amount. If Dennis Smith Jr. is out, we'll see big minutes once again for Theo Maledon. Theo Maledon's been a really good permanent producer when he's started for the Hornets. In the 3 games he has started. So even at 6,100, I think Theo Maledon, if Dennis Smith Jr. is out, is going to look like a pretty decent play. And then Mark Williams is probable, so he should play here. But we've seen Charlotte, they're going to rotate their centers around. So I think we're going to see Nick Richards start here. Mark Williams will probably be the backup, and then I guess Kai Jones, but I don't think Kai Jones played last game, so I'm not sure what Charlotte's going to do with their center rotation. Whoever starts at center for Charlotte, I think is an okay option. And then you have a guy like James Bouknight playing a lot off the bench, been pretty productive. Book Knight's one of these guys that when he's out there, he's going to shoot the ball. He's a guy that can soak up a lot of usage. He'll play even if it's a blowout too. Like, he's going to get garbage time. So I think Book Knight in GPPs at 4,700 is definitely an okay value here. I would feel a lot better about Book Knight if Dennis Smith Jr. didn't play. But most of my interest in this game definitely is on the Toronto side. Obviously, great matchup here for the Raptors. A lot to like on their side. But let's move on to the next game, Cleveland-Orlando. This is one we're not going to spend really much time on. On the Cleveland side, matchup against Orlando is decent, but like Cleveland, I think, has a very good chance of just blowing out Orlando here. Donovan Mitchell's had some really big games lately. He's been scoring the ball a ton. No one would be surprised to see another really big game from Mitchell here, but I don't love him at this price tag. I think everyone on Cleveland is priced about where they should be. There's really no standout plays from the Cavs. On the Orlando side, it's obviously a horrible matchup here against Cleveland. There's blowout risk in this game. It's a 13-game slate. I just don't really see myself going to really anyone on Orlando today. Obviously, if you're playing like 150 lineups, sure, sprinkle in some Paolo Banchero, sprinkle in some Markelle Fultz. As a one lineup guy myself, I don't see myself playing anyone on the Magic today. So let's move on to the next game, Milwaukee and Washington. Another game that I don't love a ton, but we'll start off on the Washington side. There's definitely some plays to look at from Washington here because they are shorthanded right now. Still no Porzingis, still no Bradley Beal, still no Kyle Kuzma. So we're going to see, once again, a really big role for Deni Avdija. Last two games have not been that great for Deni Avdija. He has also shot the ball terribly. You would have to think at some point he's going to have a good shooting game here. And we know Deni Avdija, when he's not scoring, he can still contribute with rebounds. He can still contribute with assists. The matchup against Milwaukee is obviously not that great, but I think Deni Avdija, does have upside here. He's definitely a fine GPP play. DeLon Wright, I think, is going to have a really big role with no Monte Morris. I think at 5,500, he looks like a really good option. He's probably my favorite play on Washington today. The last few games, we're seeing DeLon Wright play good minutes, and DeLon Wright, he's kind of similar to Deni Avdija in the sense that he's gonna do everything when he's on the floor. He can score, he can rebound, he can get assists, he can get defensive stats. He just does a little bit of everything. The only thing I worry about here is a potential blowout, and if this game does wind up being a blowout, I doubt DeLon Wright would play in a blowout. But I think if the game is competitive, we're going to get like 32 minutes from DeLon Wright, and he's a good permanent producer. So at 5,500, I really like DeLon Wright here. Daniel Gafford's going to play pretty good minutes without Kristaps Porzingis. Matchup against Milwaukee is definitely scary. Not the best spot. There's obviously foul trouble risk, going up against Giannis, but Gafford's a good permanent producer. Minutes should be really secure with no Porzingis. He's okay. Corey Kispert at 5,700 feels priced where he should be. Not a ton of interest there. And then we did see Johnny Davis start last game, and he actually played a good amount, played 30 minutes, had 29 Draftkings points. I think Johnny Davis minutes are going to be pretty secure rest of the season. I think Washington right now is just kind of like they're in evaluation mode. They're trying to get some of these younger guys playing time. So I think we can pencil in Davis for about 30 minutes here. I think he probably plays even if it's a blowout too. So I don't mind him as a value play. We'll have to see what other value we get today if any other value opens up. But I think Davis at 4,200 is a viable option. But that's it for Washington. Nothing else looks like great here. So talking about the Milwaukee side now, looking at the Bucks today, no Chris Middleton, so we can expect the offense to really run through Giannis and Drew Holiday. Giannis is in a great spot. I don't think Washington has anyone that can slow him down. I worry about blowout a little bit here. Also, Milwaukee at this point in the season, are they really going to push Giannis 35, 36 minutes? Probably not. I think Milwaukee's pretty much locked up their playoff seeding. So they're just trying to get into the playoffs healthy. So I doubt Giannis plays huge minutes, but if it is a competitive game, he probably does play 30, 32 minutes. And obviously, Giannis can put up 70 Draftkings points in 30 minutes, especially against this Wizards team. So I'm fine with Giannis as a pay-up option today. Drew at 8,500, I'm not as excited about, but I think he's okay with Middleton out here. Nothing else on Milwaukee, though, I'm really interested in. It's mainly Giannis, and that's probably it. There's going to be no Grayson Allen, so you might see more minutes for Pat Connaughton. Pat Connaughton, not the highest usage player, not a great permanent producer, but he should play a good amount here without Middleton, without Allen. He's an okay value at 4,300, but again, 13-game slate. Have a feeling there will be better value available. So let's move on to the next game, guys. Miami and Detroit. Start off on the Detroit side. Detroit's a team I've not really been targeting too heavily lately. They are going to be a little bit shorthanded for this game, though, even more shorthanded than they have been. They still don't have, Bojan, McGruder, Isaiah Stewart, all these guys. They're also going to be without Marvin Bagley, so you'll probably see, if I had to guess, we'll see maybe Eugene Omoyori start. We might see them start Isaiah Livers. It's not the greatest matchup against Miami. I know Miami's defense has not been better, or they've not been as good lately. They've really been struggling, but I still don't think this is a spot where I really want to be targeting too many guys on Detroit. Jaden Ivey's going to have a really big role. He's probably going to play 30-plus minutes regardless of if it's a close game or not. But the matchup, again, 7,100, don't really see myself going to Ivey. Don't love Hayes or Wiseman or Livers, even if he starts. Jalen Duren's a good permanent producer, but this matchup's really tough against a Miami team that's done a really good job defensively against centers this season. Maybe for value, we could look to Eugene Omiori if he starts here. I'm pretty sure last time Marvin Bagley was out, Eugene did start. I think he actually got injured in that game, but he wound up being okay. At 4,400, I think he's a decent value play here. I think he might even play even if it's a blowout. So at 4,400, he honestly, if I had to play anyone in Detroit, he's probably my favorite guy. But that's assuming he starts. If he doesn't start, then obviously not as much interest. But really, on Detroit, there's not a ton that I love here. Now, on the Miami side, really good matchup here for Miami. I think Miami, they're one of these teams right now that needs to win games. They're fighting for playoff position. They need to lock up their spot in the play-in tournament. I don't know if they can get to the 6th seed, but they want to probably lock up that play-in spot. So expect Miami to continue to play their main guys big minutes. Great matchup. Detroit's defense has been terrible this season. Really good spot for Jimmy Butler. Obviously, a lot kind of depends on the status of Bam Adebayo. It looks like Bam's going to play here after sitting out their last game. We saw Jimmy go off last game, 60 DraftKings points. I think a lot of that had to do with Bam being out. Would not be surprised to see Jimmy have another good game here, but with Bam expected back, I don't love Jimmy at 8,800. I think Bam at 7,500 looks really good. Really good matchup here against Detroit. I'm assuming Bam's going to play full minutes, and he's been playing massive minutes in the games that he's been able to play. 35, 37, 35, 40, 39. He's getting 35 plus minutes a night against Detroit. I would not be surprised to see 45, 50 DraftKings points from Bam here. So out of all the Miami guys, Butler, Bam, Hero, Bam is definitely my favorite. And I really don't like anything else in Miami, so let's go ahead and move on to the next game, guys, Minnesota and Brooklyn. So Brooklyn, they're pretty much fully healthy right now. There's not a ton to love on Brooklyn today, but Brooklyn's, I think they're another one of these teams that's fighting for playoff position, so we can expect them to play their main guys big minutes. Sure, Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie, they have plenty of upside. If it's a competitive game, they're going to play huge minutes. I feel like they're priced where they should be, though. I think Nick Claxton at 7,100 looks okay. Don't love the matchup against, Gobert, but Claxton's been playing good minutes. He's obviously a really good permanent producer. I think at 7,100, he is a fine option. Nothing else on Brooklyn I'm super interested in, though. If you want to play one of the three main guys like Bridges, Dinwiddie, or Claxton, I'm not going to fault you for it. But I don't think there's any priorities coming from this Brooklyn team. And on the Minnesota side, it's kind of the same thing for Minnesota. Karl-Anthony Towns is listed as questionable for this game. I'd assume he plays here. Minnesota is another team that's really, they need to win games right now. They're fighting for playoff position. So I think Towns is going to try and push through and play. And if Minnesota has all their guys, Edwards, Gobert, Towns, I don't see any priorities coming from this Minnesota team. I think Anthony Edwards, if I had to play anyone on Minnesota, he probably would be my favorite play. We saw him have a really big game last game against Portland. That was obviously a great matchup. Matchup here against Brooklyn, I don't think is as good, but I still think Ant is playable. Gobert's in a really good spot. We've seen Brooklyn they've been horrible defensively against centers this season. Gobert crushed against Brooklyn earlier this year. But again, with Cat back, assuming Cat plays at 8K, not a ton of interest in Gobert. Cat himself is 7,800. If he does play here, I'd assume he gets pretty much full minutes. He played 36 minutes in the game against the Lakers, which was competitive. I think last game against Portland, he was in foul trouble. So I think we're going to get 35, 36 minutes from Cat if this game's close. I think I'd rank him behind Anthony Edwards, but he's probably my second favorite play on Minnesota. Again, no priorities coming from this Minnesota team, but those two guys I think are fine. That's really it for this game. So moving on to the next game, Atlanta and Chicago. Starting off on the Chicago side, I think the big three from Chicago all look pretty appealing today. It's a really good matchup against Atlanta. We've seen Atlanta's defense not be that great lately. Atlanta's been involved in a lot of high-scoring games as well. It was a really high-scoring game when they played the Mavs on Sunday, I believe that was. So I think it's a pretty good spot for DeRozan, LaVine, and Vooch here. The price tags on these guys are not super high either. 8,200 for DeRozan. Both LaVine and Vooch are below 8K. Of the three, I think my favorite is probably Zach LaVine. It's definitely close. LaVine's just had a massive role. He's playing massive minutes. His usage has been great. I think he's probably my favorite, then DeRozan, then Vooch. We've seen DeRozan be a lot better lately, been a lot more consistent. His minutes have also been great. Usage has been really good. He's done a lot better in this matchup this season so far than LaVine has. DeRozan's been the one that's done best against Atlanta, so if you want to factor that in, maybe you side with DeRozan. But I think I'd put LaVine slightly over DeRozan. Then I think Vooch is third, but I don't mind Vooch here. Atlanta's defense against bigs, they've not been that great. They've struggled on the glass as well. I think it's a spot where Vooch can definitely have success. So I'm fine with Vooch too, but I would say, again, LaVine, my favorite from Chicago, then DeRozan, then Vooch. Really nothing else on Chicago looks that appealing. And on the other side with Atlanta, big news to monitor here with Trae Young status. Trae Young questionable for this game. Obviously, if Trae Young is out, biggest beneficiary is definitely going to be DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray at 7,600, if Trae Young is out, is going to be probably one of the best plays on the slate. He would definitely be a lock and load for me. He's been great in the games he's played without Trae this season. Would love Murray if Trae's out. If Trae plays, I think Trae and Murray are both viable GPP options, but neither one would be priorities. Matchup against Chicago is not that great. Chicago's defense has been really good lately. But then looking at some of these other Atlanta guys, besides the two guards, Clint Capella at 6K feels priced about right. Don't love the spot against Chicago. Bogdan, I think if Trae is out, Bogdan becomes a viable option at 5,200, but I'm only considering him if Trae's out. Probably only considering John Collins if Trae's out. And then Saddiq Bey, I do have some interest in. So Saddiq Bey's been starting lately. He should start again in place of DeAndre Hunter, and he's been playing really big minutes. 30 minutes against Brooklyn, 38 minutes last game against Dallas. I think that game against Dallas did go to overtime, but still Bey played 30-plus minutes in regulation. He's been playing a ton. The minutes have been good. The price tag's still low at 4,800. I think Saddiq Bey's a really good value play here. He would project even better if Trae Young got ruled out, but I think regardless, Saddiq Bey looks like a really good value. So that's kind of what I'm liking on this Atlanta side and for this game. Let's move on to the next game, though. We still got 7 more games or 6 more games to go over, guys. So next one, Portland and Memphis. For Memphis here, great matchup against Portland. Portland's defense has been horrible lately. We obviously know that Portland has pretty much just shut it down for the season. They're sitting all their main guys. So I think it's a great spot for these Memphis guys. The only thing I worry about is that this Portland team is horrible. They're going to get blown out a ton. I think this game has a lot of blowout risk. If somehow Portland can keep it close, though, I mean, Ja Morant could absolutely go off here. I could see Triple J having a really big game. I think Ja and Triple J are probably my 2 favorite plays from Memphis. And I would probably rank them in that order, Ja being first, Triple J being second. I don't think there's going to be any core options or priorities coming from this Memphis team, but I definitely think these guys have a lot of upside in GPP if somehow Portland can keep this game competitive. And, there's a chance that even if this game is a blowout, you could still see Morant do he could put up 50 Draftkings points in 3 quarters. But obviously for him to really hit his full ceiling, you probably want him to play, his full minutes. So I don't see too much else on Memphis besides Ja and Triple J. Nothing else looks that great here. Dillon Brooks is questionable, but I don't think that matters too much. I don't think there's really going to be much value to go to from Memphis. Now on the other side with Portland, we know this Portland team, again, they've shut it down for the season. Dame, Grant, Nurkic, Simons are all out. Shaedon Sharp's had a really big role. The price tag, though, is up to 8K. So I think at 8K, Shaedon Sharp is kind of priced where he should be. But again, he's been crushing lately. He is still a playable option if you want to go there. The rest of Portland, Trenton Watford, if he plays, don't have a ton of interest in. The value guys like Drew Eubanks, I wouldn't even consider him a value anymore. He's up to 5,800, but he's been productive lately. Minutes have not been great. Obviously, there's a chance he doesn't play a ton either if it's a blowout. But Eubanks is okay. Kevin Knox has had a pretty big role, been playing really big minutes. He's questionable for this game, so keep an eye on this. But if he plays, he's okay at 5,200. But man, this Portland team, they're playing 10, 11 guys a night right now. They're going to run a pretty deep rotation. I think the only guy that you can feel confident in gets huge minutes is Shaedon Sharp. They've been playing Shaedon Sharp, 40 minutes even in blowouts. So he's probably the guy that I feel best about from Portland. The rest of these guys, I think, are just kind of throwing darts. Nothing really looks that great from the Blazers, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, the Kings and the Pelicans. Starting off on the Pelican side, really good matchup here for these Pelicans guys against Sacramento. Sacramento plays fast. They haven't been playing a ton of defense lately either. So I think Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, J-Val are all in pretty good spots here. I think my favorite is probably Ingram. I know his price tag is all the way up to 9,300, but he's just had a massive role lately. He's playing huge minutes. And another team that needs to win games right now, is the Pelicans. The Pelicans need to win games, so we can expect them to really lean on their main guys. I think Brandon Ingram firmly in play. CJ and J-Val, I don't have an issue with either. J-Val's been playing really good minutes lately. His production's been great too. Last time these teams played, he had a really good game if I remember correctly. 32 minutes, 42 Draftkings points. The minutes have been there lately, and that's really all that you can say for J-Val. When he gets the minutes, he's going to produce. And again, the minutes have been secure for him. So if I had to rank the Pelicans guys, I would say Ingram my favorite, then J-Val, then McCollum. Nothing else, though, on the Pelicans I'm interested in. And on the other side with Sacramento, I don't mind going to De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis here. Sabonis at 10,100 feels priced about right, and on a 13-game slate with so many other pay-up options, I definitely would not consider Sabonis a priority. But he's been playing huge minutes lately. I don't think the Kings really have much to play for right now. I think they're pretty much locked into I think they're the 2 seed, and I think they're locked into the 2 seed for the most part. So how far, how much will they push Sabonis here? If the game's like not competitive, it's a question, but this one should be a competitive game. Sabonis is fine. I think De'Aaron Fox at 7,700 though, given the price savings, I would probably rather play over Sabonis. I know Fox has not been that great lately, but again, 7,700 is really cheap for De'Aaron Fox. If this game's competitive, he should play pretty decent minutes. I would think like low to mid 30s. He's my favorite play on the Kings, then Sabonis. Nothing else though on Sacramento looks that great. So let's move on to the next game, Denver and Houston. And Houston, they're a team right now that doesn't have much to play for, but we're seeing Houston just run their guys into the ground. I mean, Kevin Porter Jr. last game against the Lakers, even in somewhat of a blowout, played 37 minutes. Şengün played like 38 minutes. They're playing their guys big minutes right now. I don't think the matchup against Denver is that great, but Denver has been banged up lately. Jokic is questionable for this game. I think Jamal Murray is probable, so he's expected to play. But obviously, if Jokic is out, that definitely makes the matchup, I think, better overall for these Houston guys. I don't see any priority plays coming from Houston, but I do want to mention that if Jokic is out, I think the matchup becomes really good for Şengün, and I don't know if a lot of people would go to Şengün, so I'm definitely interested in Şengün here, especially if there's no Jokic. Now, if Jokic plays, it becomes a really scary spot because, obviously Jokic is great at drawing fouls, he's a decent defender, it's not the best spot for Şengün if he's out there guarding Jokic, but yeah, if there's no Jokic, I really like Şengün here, and he would definitely be my favorite play on the Rockets. But again, there's no priorities, I don't think, coming from this team. Now on the Denver side, it's a great matchup for these Denver guys. Obviously, Houston's been playing fast. They don't play much defense. Jokic is questionable. We're seeing right now that Denver is pretty much like taking the cautious approach with Jokic, and for good reason. I mean, I think Denver is pretty much locked into like the 1 seed, and I don't know if they're really going to drop in the standings. So they really don't need to play Jokic until the playoffs. But he's questionable for this game. If he plays, I assume he gets like 30-plus minutes as long as the game's competitive, and he should absolutely crush this Houston team. So I definitely like Jokic as a pay-up option if he's in. If he's out, then obviously Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Bruce Brown, these guys all get a little bit of a boost. Jamal Murray would definitely be my favorite play from Denver if there's no Jokic. We've seen Murray do really well in the games without Jokic this season. This matchup is great for guards. We've seen guards kill Houston. Murray's done really well in this matchup so far this season. So if there's no Jokic, Jamal Murray would be the first guy that I would look to. Nothing else on Denver, though, is a priority for today, and I think that's it for this game. So let's move on to the next game, Boston and Philadelphia. This is one that should be fun to watch, but I don't know if it's going to be a game we really want to go too heavy on for DFS. Two teams that play good defense, two teams that play relatively slow. Joel Embiid, James Harden, guys that both have upside, can put up huge games any night. Don't love this matchup against the Celtics, but Embiid and Harden are fine GPP plays. Neither one are priorities, though. Nothing else on Philadelphia I'm really even considering besides those two. And on the Boston side, we will need to monitor the status of Jaylen Brown. He's listed as questionable for this game. If Jaylen Brown does not play, we can expect a obviously massive role for Jason Tatum. I think Jason Tatum would be a really strong pay-up option if Brown is out. And then you would get a little bit of a boost for Smart, Brogdon, Derek White. Those guys would all become viable options if Brown sits. But Tatum would definitely be my favorite play from the Celtics if there's no Brown. Now, if Brown plays, I really don't like much here. I think Tatum and Brown would both be viable, but neither one would be priorities. Nothing else on the Celtics I'd really be considering. So this is not a game I have a ton of interest in, but I think I would definitely like Jason Tatum if there's no Jaylen Brown. Other than that, I think this is one I'm probably going to be avoiding for DFS purposes. It's not one that I want to be too heavily invested in. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. 3 more games, guys. Start off on the Utah side here with the Lakers and the Jazz. So Utah right now, I think they're like the 11 seed in the West, and they have a chance to potentially make the play-in tournament, but I don't know if they really care to make the play-in tournament. They don't really seem to care much. I mean, they've been sitting like Jordan Clarkson. Walker Kessler is out for the season. He might play in the play-in if they get there. Lauri Markkanen is questionable for this game. He returned last game, so I'm guessing after returning last game and playing that Markkanen will play here. 8,800, he feels priced about right. I'm not super interested in Lauri Markkanen. THT at 7,800, revenge game for him. He's been great lately, but with Markkanen back and playing, I'm not super interested in THT. And then, with Walker Kessler out, I think that does help a guy like Kelly Olynyk. I don't mind Kelly Olynyk here at 6,500. He should get a boost without Kessler. His rebounding numbers should see a boost. We did see him grab 15 rebounds last game. So I think Olynyk might be my favorite play on the Jazz. And then I don't know, with Kessler out, are the Jazz just going to start Olynyk at center? Or are they going to go to, who's the guy? I forgot his name. Azubuike. Are they going to start Azubuike? They might. Azubuike has not really been the best permanent producer, and even when he's gotten good minutes, he really doesn't do much. So even if he starts, he's not a guy that I would really be wanting to roster. But I definitely think Kessler being out does help Olynyk, and I think Olynyk would probably be my favorite play on the Jazz. But not a ton really looks that good on Utah. And on the other side with the Lakers, the Lakers, they got a chance to potentially make the 6th seed, to potentially get into the playoffs, not even have to play in the play-in tournament. They're on a nice win streak right now. They've been looking great as a team. This is a spot that I think we're going to see big minutes for AD, big minutes for LeBron as long as the game is competitive. Matchup against Utah, especially without Walker Kessler, I think this matchup's really good for Anthony Davis going up against Azubuike and Kelly Olynyk and whoever else they trot out there. I think AD is a fine pay-up option. I normally don't go out of my way to play AD when he's playing with LeBron, but we're seeing AD put up massive games every night, even playing with LeBron. 63 against Chicago, 65 against Minnesota, 56 against Houston. He's been on a tear lately, and I think it's a really good spot for him. So he's probably my favorite play on the Lakers. LeBron at 9,800 feels priced about right. His minutes have been kind of kept in check lately. They're clearly trying to be cautious with him heading into the postseason. So I definitely prefer AD over LeBron. And the rest of the Lakers, Russell, Reeves, these guys, Vanderbilt, nothing else I'm really considering here. So moving on to the next game, OKC and Golden State. This is another game with big playoff potential implications. Golden State, they've been losing games, they've been dropping in the standings, so they really need to get some wins here. And then OKC is currently, I believe, the 11 seed or the 10 seed, and if they want to potentially make the play-in tournament, they need to win games right now. So if this game is competitive, we can expect really big minutes for a lot of the main guys here. Steph Curry at 10,600, I think, is a pretty strong pay-up option today. If this, if this game's competitive, Curry's going to play 36, 38 minutes. He had a poor shooting game last game against Denver, but we've seen him, post some big games lately. He's done really well in this matchup this season, averaging 65 Draftkings points per game in his 2 games against OKC. So I think it's a really good spot for Steph. Great game environment as well. Should be a fast-paced, high-scoring game. He's my favorite play on Golden State. Clay, Poole, Draymond, where they're priced at, I don't think any of them are priorities here. Nothing else on Golden State I'm considering, but I definitely like Steph. And then I like SGA on the other side of this game. I think both the stars here, SGA and Curry, look really good. Again, if this game's competitive, we're getting probably 38 minutes from SGA. The Thunder, they might make the play-in tournament. They might actually make the playoffs here. They can, if they can keep winning games, they got a chance to get in. So I think we can expect them to, take this game very seriously, play their starters big minutes, and SGA is obviously the focal point of their offense, and he's going to have a big usage rate. Great matchup, or I wouldn't say matchup-wise, I think the matchup's fine, but great game environment. Should be a fast-paced game. SGA has kind of struggled against the Warriors this season, but at 10K, I think he's still a pretty strong pay-up option here. Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams, I'm not as excited about, but again, it should be a great game environment, so those guys offer some upside. But really, I'm looking at the stars here, SGA, Curry, the 2 guys I like most in this one. So let's move on to the last game of the night, guys, the Spurs and the Suns. Not one that I'm super interested in, but we'll start off on the Phoenix side. Phoenix in a really good spot here against San Antonio. San Antonio's defense has been horrible. They've been one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They're also playing at a really fast pace. So I think it's a good spot for Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. We've seen Kevin Durant and Devin Booker kind of be the 2 lead guys lately. Booker's had a big role, playing big minutes every night. And then Kevin Durant, now that his minutes are starting to creep back up, last few games since he's come back from injury, 33 minutes, 35 minutes, he's only 8,900. He's actually coming in cheaper than Devin Booker. I think my favorite play on Phoenix here is definitely Kevin Durant. I think 8,900 for a fully healthy Kevin Durant in a matchup against the Spurs. I mean, this looks great. My only concern is that I think this game could definitely be a blowout. I could see Phoenix, not having to really push their guys here. But if this game's competitive, we should get about 34, 35 minutes from KD. I think at 8,900, he looks really good. He's my favorite play on Phoenix. Don't mind Chris Paul. It's a great matchup for him against the Spurs. Spurs have been getting killed by guards this season, but I think you just get a lot more upside from KD and Booker. And then DeAndre Ayton, his production has been really bad in the games he's played with KD. The matchup for him is great. San Antonio's been getting killed by centers this season. I think this is a spot where Ayton can have a lot of success. But again, you look at his game log, he's just been horrible when he's been playing with KD. His usage is way down. He's just not involved in the offense. The price tag, though, is 6,200. I think does make him a playable GBP option. And I would not be surprised to see Ayton finally have a good game here. But definitely, again, favorite play on the Suns is for sure Kevin Durant. Now, on the other side with the Spurs are not a team I have a ton of interest in right now. They're just full-blown taking. They don't care to win games. They're going to play 12 guys a night. They're going to run a deep rotation. Maybe if you want to play like a Zach Collins or a Kellen Johnson, if they play, I guess you could. Zach Collins, in the games that have been competitive, he's been playing 30 minutes, but don't love this spot. Keldon Johnson should have a really big role if he plays, but Are they going to play him big minutes? Or he's doubtful, so he probably doesn't even play here. I mean, it's just like this Spurs team, man. I'm so done with the Spurs. I just don't even want to target any of these guys. I'm not going to go to any Spurs. I don't think they're going to run an 11, 12-man rotation. They're going to spread out the minutes for the most part. There's just not really any plays that stand out on San Antonio. So that'll do it for that game, guys, and that'll do it for this 13-game slate for Tuesday night. It's definitely a big one. Hopefully, though, this video helped you guys. You get more prepared for Tuesday's slate. But again, appreciate you guys watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you hit that like button down below before you do get out of here. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And also, guys, go check out PrizePicks, sponsor of the video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks and use my promo code NOAH. When you sign up, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up with my promo code. But again, appreciate you guys watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.